Hello everyone, my name is Javier Gomez, member of the UDS technical team, and in this video we're going to see how to configure VDI services for Windows machines and for Linux machines. So we will have two machines, two templates, that will be a Windows template and our Ubuntu template. So let's start with the configuration in UDS Enterprise. In our UDS platform, we will access with an admin user, and then we will go to the control panel to dashboard. In the dashboard, we will start defining some parts. The first part would be the service provider. This will be the hypervisor that we're going to use. As you can see right here, my case is a VMware platform. So we will click on New. We'll look for VMware. We will click it and we'll start typing the name. In my case, VMware, vCenter, the IP of our server, the port that it's using, and a user that had privileges that can create these machines. In our case, it's going to be an administrator user. Let's put the password. We can test the connection to see if everything goes great, and it does pass the test, so we can save. Once we have our service provider already, we can start creating our base service. We are going to create two. The first one, clone based link, is going to be this one, so let's click on it. We'll put a name for it. It's going to be our Windows one. Now we're going to see the different things we have to type here. So let's start with the data center, the name, where do we want to save it, where the pool, where the publications and the machines are going to be saved. In my case, it's going to be publications, and the data stores where they will be located. You can choose one or two depending on what you need. But remember that in my case, if we choose two, it will be the proper platform who we choose the one that has more space free. In this case, it will choose the 500, almost 600 gig one. In the machine tab, we will choose the configuration of the machines that are going to be created. So we will choose the where is the base machine. Let's find it. It's templates. Here we go. Let's select the base machine. We have two, our Windows one and our Linux one. Let's start for Windows. Let's now choose how many RAM these machines have, the network that they want, or they are going to need, and the folder where the clones will be. So virtual machines there. The data stores where we want them to be allocated, and the name for these new machines. In this case, it's going to be some words or the name that you want to be, and the length. In this case, this length is going to be 3. So when it creates machine, it will go to 0 to 3 numbers to 999, for example. In this case, in the advanced tab, we can leave it by default. Now we can click on save, and we will do the same thing with the Linux machine. Let's put a name on it. Ubuntu 20.04. Okay. The data center that we want. Let's choose the pool where the publications are. There we go. The data stores where the publication is going to be. Then in the machine part, same as before. Let's see where our machine is. The machine, here we go, the Ubuntu 2004. How many RAM we want for these machines. It's going to be 2 gigs, great. The network, it's going to be LAN both. Domain and the public. and where the folder where we want the clones to be, the data stores where we want them to be located, and the base names for these machines. That will be the same as the other one. The name length will be 3 also. So we can save now. Now we have all both services. Then we'll go to create a new authenticator. We'll click on new one, and we'll create an internal database. Or you can choose any one we want, but in this case it's going to be an internal database. So let's create a new one. We'll name it internal database. Now a label for it is going to be in the advanced tab. For now we'll leave everything by default, and we'll leave it on visible so we can see it. We can test it to see if everything's okay and great and save. So once we have it created, we can now configure our users and our groups. Let's start with the groups. So we go to our groups tab and create a new group. This new group is going to be called users. As you know, we don't have any service pools yet, so nothing to click here, and click OK. Then we'll go to create a new user. So in my case, going to be user 01. We can choose to put a real name here. It's only visible. It's top right corner. You can see it there, but it's not necessary. The only one that you need to put is the username, because it's the way you're going to validate in UDS. So we will let him the role as user, and we'll choose a password. Also, we're going to indicate the group users that we just created and click on OK. Great. Now we have our user perfectly created. We'll go next to RS Manager. So we're going to choose what type of service we want to create, and we will create them. So let's click on new. We can choose 2 right now. We're going to go for Linux ones and the Windows one. So we will use a basic OS manager because our machines are not in our domain. We'll start with the Linux one. Put a name Linux OS manager, and we are going to choose what's going to happen to the machine when the user logs out. We can say the machine is going to be persistent, non-persistent, or semi-persistent. In our case right now, it's going to be a non-persistent machine. So the machine can be raised when the user logs out. When we choose logworks action to be remove service, we need to establish a max idle time. So we need to put how much will it take for that machine to be raised. We'll put a 300 now. It's in seconds. So yeah, here it depends on what you need. You can click on save. We'll click again in new. We'll click on for the Windows one on basic OS manager. Now the name is going to be Windows OS Manager. OS Manager, there we go. It's going to be the same. We want it to be non-persistent, so we click on remove service, and in max idle time, we will put 300, the same. We can click on save, and we have our OS managers ready. Let's go to our transport part. So in our transport tab, we put our transport protocols. Here we click in the new tab. We have 2 types of transports. The direct ones. These will be the ones that we use for our local connections. And the tunnel ones. These connections will be done through our tunnel, and they can be used through the internet and outside our local connections. So let's create a new transport for these machines. So the first one will be for our direct one, and we'll start with RDP. The first thing we will do will be to put a name. In this case, it will be RDP direct and the priority of this transport. So in this case, it's going to be 1, but we will explain it ahead. So for now, it's will only be 1. Then in the credential part, we will indicate the 3 types of credentials that you can have with this machine. You have three ways of doing it. If the configuration is all left by default and empty, the connection will be made with the user that connects directly to UDS in the login of UDS part. So as my machine has another type of user, we'll have to configure a user and a password. In this case, we'll indicate a user that's going to be UDS and its password for the local machine. This is a local user of the machine. In the case that we do leave the empty credentials, when we try to do a connection to a machine, it will be the proper system, the one who asks us what user and what password do we want. So in our case, we're using a local user, and we are going to force it to be UDS the user and UDS the password. Okay, so then in parameters, here we can indicate what do we want to share. For example, we have the printers, smart cards, drives, anything, something like that. And in the display part, we have the visualization parameters. We want it to be full screen, for example. And in Linux, this is all the answers that we have for the Linux client. In this case, we're leaving it all by default. And we can click on save. Now we're going to start with the tunnel part. The tunnel part, we have, for example, the HTML5 transport and RDP. In the case that we want to use a connection of HTML5 for the local connections or the tunnel connections or the internet, we are always going to use our tunnel. So even though we want to use it on our local connections, the tunnel will always have to be used. So let's start with HTML5 and let's start putting the name. So let's put, what name am I going to put here? Let's put HTML5. Okay, the priority, in this case, we will put 2 to see the changes that we'll have with the other one. Later we'll see it, and we'll go to the tunnel part. In the tunnel tab, we will have to put the internet direction over our tunnel. So the format that we need would be to put HTTPS and also the direction, the IP direction or DNS name of our machine. In the case that we are using a local connection, we will have to put the IP, the local IP of our machine. So and this is our case, so we'll put the IP. It's going to be 168.0.51, and also we will need to say the port that it's going to be used. By default, it's 10443 for HTML5 connections. And the credentials will be doing the same as before. We will force to use to be UDS and UDS. And in parameters, we'll always leave this by default. The only important thing here in the parameter section will be to say what keyword, what layer of keyword we have. And the security part, the type of security that is going to be done, it is recommended to leave it in any. So that will be the server that chooses how it's going, these type of authentications will be done. Next, in the advanced tab, we will leave everything by default. And we can check, for example, how will the connections open. You can make it to it opens always in the same window, or can open a new window, however you like it. You can click on save. Okay, then our last connection, we will configure our tunnel RDP connection. As we go through our tunnel, so we'll put our name, RDP in this case, RDP tunnel, the priority, that in this case it's going to be free, and we'll go to configure the tunnel. This is a bit different as HTML5, as here we only need to put the IP or DNS name of the tunnel. In the case that we want to use the connection through the internet, we will need to put the public IP or the DNS name. In our case, it's only going to be the IP.51 and the port. For the RDP connections, the port by default will be the 4431. In the credentials tab, we will also put the same as before, reinforce the username and password to be UDS. And the parameters, we can leave it by default. We can choose, for example, the drive we want to be shared or anything like that, but we'll leave it by default. And the display part, the same. We'll leave it by default and click on save. In this way, we have our free transport created. In the case the two machines are going to be configured, or three machines for the same user, so we can use these free transports for them because they will have the same user and same password. In the case that this is the user and the password will not be the same, we will need to create as many transports as configurations we need. So let's go to our service pools and let's create a new one. So here will be the same as before. We will put a new name, so we'll put Windows 10. The service, the base service that we're going to use, that will be a Windows 10. The OS manager that we need to use, and ready. And the display part, we just look for the visible part. It's on yes, the image that you want to be assigned, and the group that will be assigned to. In the advanced tab, we're going to leave it by default, and the availability tab, we will go in how many machines we want to be created. So we can say how many will be initially created, how many will be in cache, and the maximum number of machines that we have for this service. In this case, we want to have 2 machines in cache, and the maximum machines will be 5. Click on save, and everything's ready. Let's go to do the same thing for our Linux machine. We'll put Ubuntu. Okay, .04, great. The base service, that will be Ubuntu, VMware here, and the OS manager, the Linux one, great. The display part, the same, we'll leave it by default. The advanced tab, the same. And in the availability tab, we put 2 machines in cache with a maximum of 5 machines. These numbers can be, of course, however you like. We click on save, and we all have our service pools. Okay, now we will access these services, so we can check some parameters. In the group part, we will tell them what groups we will see the service. So in our case, the internal database will group with the group of users. Also, in the transports, we will tell them the 3 transports that we just created. HTML5 one, the new one will be our RDP direct, and the next one will be the RDP tunnel. Okay. Then in the publications part, we can see how the machines are already being prepared. So if we go in our VS4 platform, we can see that they are already being prepared. As we indicated, our pool is here in publications. We see how here they are. Our Windows 1 and Ubuntu 1 are being prepared. As we can see, how UDS works is very simple. When we want to create a new application, we need to choose the base machine, and the base publication will be created. Once we have created this publication, from this publication, UDS will be the one that creates the new machines by cloning it. For example, with Ubuntu, we've chosen that template, the Ubuntu 1, with the Ubuntu publication that we have it right there, and these below will be the services that will be in clone. So in UDS, go back to it, we can see how it gets in cache. They will be starting. We'll go to publication, we see that they are already valid, and in cache we see that they are being created right now. Our services right now, it's being created. The machine, we can see the active version and how the machine is. So let's see it right here. it's still creating the machine with the 3 lengths and numbers that we created at the beginning of the video, if you remember, and the other machine is being created also. Like 001, 002, therefore it will go. So in the cache part, we can see now that the active version is being detected as a 3.01. Let's wait for a second for these machines to be in a valid state so we can use them. Once these machines are in a valid state, we can see in the cache part how they have their IP, the valid state, the active version, and when Xubuntu will be the same, have the IP, the active version, and the valid state. So let's log out and go back to our user. Let's start putting the name of our user and its password, and let's get inside. And as we can see it's a normal user with no permissions, and he can see the Windows 10 service. If you can't see the Linux machine, it's because it's not assigned. So we'll go back to our service pool. We'll go to Xubuntu part. We'll tell them what group we want it to be. We go to Authenticator, internal database, and we'll click users so that every user inside the group can see it. So now that user will have permission to see it. So in here we can refresh, and he will see the Windows one and the Xubuntu one. If he clicks in the service, he will access it, but he can choose the 3 types of connection that he has. Let's talk about the priority now. As you can see, the priority go from less to more. If the number is smaller, bigger will be the priority. For example, number 0 on the list and number 1, the first one will be the number 0 and the second one will be the number 1. And that follows with everything in the priority. So let's do a try the connection with RDP or direct RDP to our Windows test machine. We'll click, it will open our UDS client. It will be starting, creating the connection with the UDS user. If you remember that we wanted it to put. And here we go. Here we have our machine totally operative. For the administrators, when they access the platform, they can see in the Windows 10 service part, in the assigned services, they can see which user is using which machine. Here you can see user 01 is using the Windows 10 machine. The 0001, we can see that it's using it right now and it's in a valid state. So when the user wants to sign out the machine, we will click logout. We can see how the administrators will see what's happening to that machine, and it's going to be erased. As you can see right now, it's already been eliminated and it's not being used. And in the cache part, the same. We can see that it's already being created a new machine with the new number. It will be 002. So every time we do this without the user noticing, they will be creating new machines. Now we'll do a new type of connection with the Ubuntu one, and we're going to use the HTML5. As you can see, it opens in a new tab on our browser. So as you can see, we have totally active and working our Linux machine. In our hypervisor, we can see the name of the machine right here in UDS. The user it's being used, the 000 machine, and we can see in our VMware how the machine is being used. We can see that when the user does a sign out. Here we'll click on logout. That tab will be closed, and in some seconds we can see how this machine that was being used will be totally erased. Here we go. It's being turned off. And it will be eliminated. Here we go. It's already eliminated. Here we see delete. And like this, we will have the services, remote services to our users, Windows machine, and Ubuntu machines. Let's try the last one with the tunnel. We'll open the client again, starting to make the connection through our tunnel. Remember that we put the UDS user so we can connect. And here we go. We have the machine totally prepared for the user. So let's do a logout. Let's shut. You can shut down or sign out. I'm going to sign out. And there we go. Now we have our services configured to our users. I hope this video has helped you a lot, and thank you very much for your time. Bye.